Wolf and Whisker Co. is the official partner for this episode of Sleep and Relax ASMR. Wolf and Whisker Co. is an online boutique store that specializes in the sale of unique and novel cat and dog themed products. They offer products for cats and dogs, including toys, grooming tools, etc., as well as cat-themed and dog-themed items such as apparel, artistically created mugs, pillowcases, watches, hoodies with dog faces printed throughout, just a bunch of cool stuff. Think of them as that crazy cat lady or dog dude that always wants to talk about cats and dogs and has something to show you. Well, that's Wolf and Whisker Co., except they aren't crazy. They just love cats and dogs, and they love fun and interesting and unique cat-themed and dog-themed items. And you should definitely check them out, especially because they have a great offer exclusively for the listeners of Sleep and Relax ASMR. Visit wolfandwhiskerco.com. That's WOOF and WHISKERCO.com and use promo code ASMR checkout for 15% off your order. It's a pretty good deal. It's 15% off your order for a lot of cool stuff they have on there. It's alright if you're a little confused about the spelling. There's a direct link in the show notes. And once again, that's wolfandwhiskerco.com. Use promo code ASMR checkout to get that special offer exclusive to listeners of this podcast. And in case you were wondering, I did place an order using that promo code. It's a product that I'm really excited to receive. It's a cat-themed wristwatch that reads meow, and it has this cute little cat wearing glasses on it. And I'm going to be giving it to my younger cousin as a gift, who loves cats. She loves cats, and she loves cutesy cat-related products. So it's unique, it's affordable, and I know she'll love it. And I know you'll find something that you love too. So wolfandwhiskerco.com. Thanks for being the sponsor for this episode of Sleep and Relax ASMR.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sleep and Relax ASMR. This episode, I'll be reading off some funny urban legends. There are no creepy ones, I promise. I know the last thing you guys want to hear is, some scary urban legend that just keeps you up all night. It's the exact opposite effect of what I'm going for. All of these urban legends come from thoughtco.com, as well as smashinglists.com. A few of them just seem to be like cool stories that people have retold. Of course, they may or may not be true, but that adds to the whole mystery of the thing. I don't know if they're true or false, but I found them, and this is for pure entertainment, so hopefully you enjoy this episode, and let's start. The first one is called The Cigar Arsonist. A Charlotte, North Carolina man, having purchased a case of rare, very expensive cigars, insured them against fire. Within a month, having smoked his entire stockpile of fabulous cigars and having yet to make a single premium payment on the policy, the man filed a claim against the insurance company. In his claim, the man stated that he had lost the cigars in a series of small fires. The insurance company refused to pay, citing the obvious reason that the man had consumed the cigars in a normal fashion. The man sued and won. In delivering his ruling, the judge stated that since the man held a policy from the company in which it had warranted that the cigars were insurable, and also guaranteed that the cigars would be insured against fire, without defining what is considered to be unacceptable fire, it was obligated to compensate the man insured for his loss. Rather than endure a lengthy and costly appeal process, the insurance company grudgingly accepted the judge's ruling and paid the man $15,000 for the rare cigars he lost in the fires. After the man cashed his check, however, the insurance company had him arrested on 24 counts of arson. With his own insurance claim and testimony from the previous case being used as evidence against him, the man was convicted of intentionally burning the rare cigars and sentenced to 24 consecutive one-year terms. Moral of the story, don't piss off your insurance company. I think that was the first one I read before compiling the list, and I think it's just such a great story. Again, I have no idea if it's true. I mean, you could probably just Google it and see what happens, or what comes up, but I almost hope it's true. I mean, that's a great story. Let's see what else. Let me see. The second one I have here is called Thank You from the Old Folks Home. Someone who teaches at a middle school in Safety Harbor, Florida, forwarded the following letter. The letter was sent to the principal's office after the school had sponsored a luncheon for the elderly. An old lady received a new radio at the lunch and was writing to say thanks. And here's the letter. Dear Safety Harbor Middle School, God bless you for the beautiful radio I won at your recent senior citizens luncheon. I am 84 years old and live at the Safety Harbor Assisted Home for the Aged. All of my family has passed away. I am all alone now, and it's nice to know that someone is thinking of me. God bless you for your kindness to an old forgotten lady. My roommate is 95 and always had her own radio, but before I received one, she would never let me listen to hers, even when she was napping. The other day, her radio fell off the nightstand and broke into a lot of pieces. It was awful, and she was in tears. She asked if she could listen to mine, and I said, F you. Life is good. Sincerely, Edna.
That's a great one.
That's like the general theme of all these urban legends, right? It's like they're kind of just like funny stories that may or may not have happened. Last time I did urban legends, I accidentally read a few that were kind of scary, and I didn't get any complaints, but I didn't, looking back, I'm sure most of you listen when you're trying to take a nap or go to bed or just kind of unplug from your day, and the last thing you need is a scary story. The next urban legend is called Biscuits for Brains. There was a sweet older lady who would often do grocery shopping for the infirm and elderly in her church. One hot summer day, a lady asked her to pick up a few things and bring them by her house in a dangerous part of Baltimore City. The sweet old lady was wary but felt that she couldn't say no, even though she was terrified of driving in the part of the city that often had shootouts and other drug violence. Anyway, the woman went on her way, picked up the groceries, and proceeded to the lady's house. As she entered the lady's neighborhood, she noticed young hoodlums gathering on every street corner. Although she had no air conditioning in her car, she rolled the windows up tightly as a safety precaution and suffered in the 90-plus degree heat. She drove ahead until suddenly she heard a loud pop and felt a jolt to the back of her head. She reached to feel the back of her head and came back with wet oozing mess that she was sure was part of her brain. Knowing that she had been shot, the woman turned around and raced to a local hospital. Somehow, she made it to the emergency room and had the strength to walk right in. She told the attendant that she had been shot. Immediately, she was rushed back into an exam room. Doctors whirled around and asked her where she had been shot, since they saw no blood. She said, "My head," and the doctors found a mass of the oozing white substance the woman had first noticed. Upon inspection, the doctors realized that the white substance wasn't part of her brain, but instead a lump of biscuit dough. The kind in a can that exploded from the heat of her car. It's funny. So the lady was so concerned about driving up in a bad neighborhood that, the groceries she bought ended up biscuits just exploded on her. legend is called The Wrong Bank. This is excerpt from an article which appeared in the Dublin Times about a bank robbery on March 2nd, 1999. Once inside the bank, shortly after midnight, their efforts at disabling the internal security system got underway immediately. The robbers, who expected to find one or two large safes filled with cash and valuables, were surprised to see hundreds of smaller safes scattered throughout the bank. The robbers cracked the first safe's combination, and inside they found only a bowl of vanilla pudding. As recorded on the bank's audio tape system, one robber said, "At least we'll have a bit to eat." The robbers opened up a second safe, and it also contained nothing but vanilla pudding. The process continued until all the safes were opened. They found not £1 sterling, a diamond, or an ounce of gold. Instead, all the safes contained covered bowls of pudding. Disappointed, the robbers made a quiet exit, each leaving with nothing more than a queasy, uncomfortable, full stomach. The newspaper headline read, "Ireland's largest sperm bank robbed early this morning." Wow. Once again, I hope that's true. What a great story that would be. So these guys are expecting to rob a bank and they end up not realizing they're in a sperm bank. The next one is called MasterCard Wedding. For anyone who feels they've been invited to too many weddings lately, have a laugh. This is actually true. It was in a local newspaper in South Carolina. This is a true story about a recent wedding that took place at Clemson University. It was a huge wedding with about 300 guests. After the wedding, at the reception, the groom got up on stage at the microphone to talk to the crowd. He said he wanted to thank everyone for coming, many from long distances, to support them at their wedding. He especially wanted to thank the brides and groom's families for coming, and to thank his new father-in-law for providing such a fabulous reception. To thank everyone for coming, bringing gifts and everything. He said he wanted to give everyone a special gift just from him. So, taped to the bottom of everyone's chair, including the wedding party, was a manila envelope. He said that this was his gift and told everyone to open their envelopes. Inside each envelope was an 8x10 photo of his best man having sex with the bride. He had gotten suspicious of the two of them and hired a private detective to trail them weeks prior to the wedding. After he stood there and watched the people's reactions for a couple of minutes, he turned to the best man and said, "F you." He turned to his bride and said, "F you." Then he turned to the dumbfounded crowd and said, "I'm out of here." He had his marriage annulled for the first thing that Monday morning. While most of us would have broken off the engagement immediately after finding out about the affair, this guy goes through with it anyway, as if nothing was wrong. His revenge: number 1, making the bride's parents pay over $32,000 for 300 guests for a wedding and reception. Number 2, letting everyone know exactly what did happen. And best of all, 3, trashing the bride's and best man's reputation in front of all their friends and their entire families. Wow, what a story that is. I'm definitely, as soon as I'm done recording this episode, that is definitely one that I'll look up after. I mean, that's a terrible thing for the bride to do, and for his best, I mean, that was his best man, so obviously it was presumably his best friend, right? That's just a terrible thing. The next urban legend is titled The Queen, the President, and the Flatulent Horse. Let me scroll down a little bit here. At Heathrow Airport in England, a 300-foot red carpet was stretched out to Air Force One, and President Bush strode to a warm but dignified handshake from Queen Elizabeth II. They rode in a silver 1934 Bentley to the edge of central London, where they boarded an open 17th century coach hitched to 6 magnificent white horses. As they rode toward Buckingham Palace, each looking to their side and waving to the thousands of cheering Britons lining the streets, all was going well. This was indeed a glorious display of pageantry and dignity. Suddenly, the scene was shattered when the right rear horse let rip the most horrendous, earth-shattering, eye-smarting blast of flatulence, and the coach immediately filled with noxious fumes. Uncomfortable but maintaining control, the two dignitaries did their best to ignore the whole incident. But then the Queen decided that was ridiculous. That was a ridiculous manner in which to handle a most embarrassing situation. She turned to Mr. Bush and explained, "Mr. President, please accept my regrets. I'm sure you understand that there are some things that even a queen cannot control." George W., ever the Texas gentleman, replied, "Your Majesty, please don't give the matter another thought. You know, if you hadn't said something, I would have assumed it was one of the horses." So by her apologizing to him, he ended up thinking it was actually her that let it rip. It's funny. The next urban legend is Bricklayer Accident Report. This is a bricklayer's accident report, which was printed in the newsletter of the British equivalent of the Workers' Compensation Board. This is a true story. Dear Sir, I am writing a response to your request for additional information in Block 3 of the accident report form. I put poor planning as the cause of my accident. You asked for a fuller explanation, and I trust the following details will be sufficient. I am a bricklayer by trade. On the day of the accident, I was working alone on the roof of a new 6-story building. When I completed my work, I found I had some bricks left over, which, when weighed later, were found to be slightly in the excess of 500 pounds. Rather than carry the bricks down by hand, I decided to lower them in a barrel by using a pulley, which was attached to the side of the building on the 6th floor. Securing the rope at ground level, I went up to the roof, swung the barrel out, and loaded the bricks into it. Then I went down and untied the rope, holding it tightly to ensure a slow descent of the bricks. You will note in Block 11 of the accident report form that I weigh 135 pounds. Due to my surprise at being jerked off the ground so suddenly, I lost my presence of mind and forgot to let go of the rope. Needless to say, I proceeded at a rapid rate up the side of the building. In the vicinity of the 3rd floor, I met the barrel, which was now proceeding downward at an equally impressive speed. This explains the fractured skull, minor abrasions, and the broken collarbone as listed in Section 3 of the accident report form. Slowed only slightly, I continued my rapid ascent, not stopping until the fingers of my right hand were 2 knuckles deep into the pulley. Unfortunately, by that time I regained my presence of mind and was able to hold tightly to the rope, in spite of the excruciating pain I was now beginning to experience. At approximately the same time, however, the barrel bricks hit the ground and the bottom fell out of the barrel. Now devoid of the weight of the bricks, the barrel weighed approximately 50 pounds. I refer you again to my weight. As you might imagine, I began a rapid descent down the side of the building. In the vicinity of the 3rd floor, I met the barrel coming up. This accounts for the 2 fractured ankles, broken tooth, and severe lacerations of my legs and lower body. Here my luck began to change slightly. The encounter with the barrel seemed to slow me enough to lessen my injuries when I fell into the pile of bricks, and fortunately only 3 vertebrae were cracked. I am sorry to report, however, as I lay there in the pile of bricks in pain, unable to move, I again lost my composure and presence of mind and let go of the rope, and I lay there watching the empty barrel begin its journey back down onto me. This explains the 2 broken legs. I hope this answers your inquiry. What a great report. Let's see. I think I have a couple more on here. This one's titled, Good Luck, Mr. Gorski. When Apollo mission astronaut Neil Armstrong first walked on the moon, he not only gave his famous "one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind" statement, but followed it by several remarks, usual calm traffic between him and other astronauts and mission control. Just before he re-entered the lander, however, he made the enigmatic remark, "Good luck, Mr. Gorski." Many people at NASA thought it was a casual remark concerning some rival Soviet cosmonaut. However, upon checking, there was no Gorski in either the Russian or American space programs. Over the years, many people questioned Armstrong as to what the "Good luck, Mr. Gorski" statement meant, but Armstrong just always smiled. On July 5th, 1995, in Tampa Bay, Florida, while answering questions following a speech, a reporter brought up the 26-year-old question to Armstrong. This time he finally responded. Mr. Gorski had finally died, and so Neil Armstrong felt he could answer the question. When he was a kid, he was playing baseball with a friend in the backyard. His friend hit a fly ball which landed in the front of his neighbor's bedroom windows. His neighbors were Mr. and Mrs. Gorski. As he leaned down to pick up the ball, young Armstrong heard Mrs. Gorski shouting at Mr. Gorski, "Oral sex. You want oral sex? You'll get oral sex when the kid next door walks on the moon." And they finish off the urban legend by saying true story. That's again another one that you can easily look up afterwards, and I'll definitely look into it. Let's see what else I have on here. The exploding toilet. A man was working on his motorcycle on his patio, and his engine on the motorcycle, and somehow the motorcycle slipped into gear. The man, still holding the handlebars, was dragged through a glass patio door, and along with his motorcycle dumped onto the floor inside the house. The wife, hearing the crash, ran into the dining room and found her husband laying on the floor, cut and bleeding, the motorcycle laying next to him, and the patio door shattered. The wife ran to the phone and summoned an ambulance. Because they lived on a fairly large hill, the wife went down the several flights of long steps to the street to direct the paramedics to her husband. After the ambulance arrived and transported the husband to the hospital, the wife uprighted the motorcycle and pushed it outside. Seeing that gas had spilled on the floor, the wife obtained some paper towels, blotted up the gasoline, and threw the towels in the toilet. The husband was treated at the hospital and was released to come home. After arriving home, he looked at the shattered patio door and the damage done to his motorcycle. He became despondent, went into the bathroom, sat on the toilet, and smoked a cigarette. After finishing the cigarette, he flipped it in between his legs into the toilet bowl while still seated. The wife, who was in the kitchen, heard a loud explosion and her husband screaming. She ran into the bathroom and found her husband laying on the floor. His trousers had been blown away, and he was suffering burns on the buttocks, the back of his legs, and his groin. The wife again ran to the phone and called for an ambulance. The same ambulance crew was dispatched, and the wife met them at the street. The paramedics loaded the husband on the stretcher and began carrying him to the street. While they were going down the stairs to the street, accompanied by his wife, one of the paramedics asked his wife how the husband had burned himself. She told them, and the paramedics started laughing so hard one of them tipped the stretcher and dumped the husband out. He fell down the raining steps and broke his arm. Now that's a bad day. Let's see what else I have on here. This next one is called The Halloween Surprise. invited to a swanky masked Halloween party. She got a terrible headache and told her husband to go to the party alone. He, being a devoted husband, protested, but she argued and said she was going to take some aspirin and go to bed, and there was no need of his good time being spoiled by not going. So he took his costume and he went away. The wife, after sleeping soundly for 1 hour, awakened without pain, and as it was still early, she decided to go to the party. Inasmuch as her husband did not know what her costume was, she thought she would have some fun by watching her husband to see how he acted while she was not with him. She joined the party and soon spotted her husband cavorting around on the dance floor, dancing with every nice chick he could, and copying a little fear here and there, and a little kiss here and there. His wife went up to him, and being a rather seductive babe herself, he left his partner high and dry, and devoted his time to the new stuff that had just arrived. She let him go as far as he wished, naturally, since he was her husband. Finally, he whispered a little proposition in her ear, and she agreed, so off they went to one of the cars and had a little bang. Just before unmasking at midnight, she slipped away and went home and put the costume away and got into bed, wondering what kind of explanation he would make for his behavior. She was sitting up reading when he came in and asked what kind of a time he had had. He said, "Oh, the same old thing. You know I never have a good time when you're not there." She asked, "Did you dance much?" He replied, "I'll tell you, I never even danced once. When I got there, I met Pete, Bill Brown, and some other guys, so he went into the den and played poker all night. But I'll tell you this, the guy I loaned my costume to sure had a real good time."
That's terrible.
Alright, I think I got one or two more here. This one's called Don't Forget Your Undies. From the Sydney Morning Herald comes the story of a Central West couple who drove their car into Kmart only to have their car break down in the car park, I guess the parking lot. The man told his wife to carry on with the shopping while he fixed the car. The wife returned later to see a small group of people near the car. On closer inspection, she saw a pair of male legs protruding from under the chassis. Although the man was in shorts, his lack of underpants turned his private parts into glaringly public ones. Unable to stand the embarrassment, she dutifully stepped forward and tucked everything back into place. On regaining her feet, she looked slowly across the bonnet and found herself staring at her husband standing idly by. The mechanic, however, had to have 3 stitches in his head. That was a silly one. That's actually the last one I had on my list. I thought I might have had 1 or 2 more. So that's the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you want me to continue doing urban legends. If you have suggestions, you can reach the show by emailing hello@sleepandrelaxasmr.com. Check out our website, sleepandrelaxasmr.com. Thanks as always for listening, and